In this video, I'm going to change out the headlight housing and the HID headlight system for my 2003 Acura TL Type-S. As you can see, there is some serious condensation in the driver's side headlamp, and as a result, the ballast underneath the headlight was destroyed. Okay, the first step is to remove the front bumper. There's a nice video on YouTube that I'll provide a link to in my description. They did a fantastic job of showing in detail how to remove the front bumper. Just in summary, you need to remove that top cowl, and it's just a bunch of clips. And then after you remove that, there are two bolts on the underside on the left and the right, and then two screws near the corners. I'll show you where that is. Right on the underside of there. You just take a screwdriver and you can remove the screw there, and then a series of clips underneath the bumper. But like I said, there's a video that shows the process in detail. I'm not going to go through that here. I've taken out most of the cowl clips. As you can see, there's 4 there in the front with the holes, and I think there's a couple here on the edge. There's 2 clips that are very difficult to take out, and I haven't taken them out because I think I found a way to avoid taking them out and ruining them. If you take out all of the other clips and then you just move the cowl up a little bit, you can see a bracket right here. And if you take the clip out, which I've already done here, if you take the clip out, I think you'll be able to remove this bumper assembly with the cowl and avoid ruining these 2 little almost impossible clips here. So I'm going with that assumption, and I'm going to continue here. I just pulled the front bumper off, and as you can see, I was able to keep the cowl on the top with the 2 clips intact, so that's good news. Here's the car now with the bumper removed. Now we'll remove the headlight. The first thing to do is to take out the top 2 bolts that are holding the headlight in. I've already done that on this side. Here is the driver's corner without the headlight installed. I just took it out, and there's 2 bolts underneath the headlight that you need to get to. One is right over here. You can see there's a top one and a bottom one. You only need to take the top one off. And then there's 2 right over here. After you do that, all you need to do is gently, remove the bottom headlight frame, gently wiggle the headlight out, and take all of the different clips out. There's 4. There's 2 right there. There's 1 right there. And then this one I had trouble getting it out because the cord was too short, so I just twisted the bulb right out and removed it that way. Here is the old headlight on top that I am replacing. This is the one that has some water damage. And here are the new headlights that I'm going to be installing. It still has a bit of a cellophane wrap around the front to prevent scratching, but as you can see, gets rid of the amber, clears out the amber reflector, and it's just not a removal. They put a clear reflector there, and then instead of the silver, it's been replaced with a blacked out trim. So should look good. Okay, so let's take a look at the old headlight. The old headlight, you can see there's the ballast. So once you remove the ballast, that's what the new housing looks like. You can see there's space for the ballast and a hole for where the wires come from the ballast in. So we're going to be replacing the ballast, and then the light, the low beam light that goes to the ballast and into that area right there. Okay. So I purchased HID, extra HID kit. I'll open that up in a moment. Of course, got the manual. And a couple things that you'll need. You'll need amber 194 bulbs for these corners here. Even though this is clear, I think by some law or something, this is supposed to be amber colored. So you throw amber bulbs in there, and the reflector should hide it pretty well, so that's okay. The other thing you want is a set of female connectors. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I wasn't sure whether the wire was 16 gauge or 12 gauge, so I bought both of them, and I'll return whichever one doesn't make sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this guy up. 2 small boxes. Okay, so let's take a look at this one. This one is the ballast. So here's the ballast. We'll need to figure out where to mount this guy. This cable here goes to the low beam headlights and needs to be somehow routed into that hole that I showed you. And this plug right here is the plug that needs to plug into the car. Now you'll hear people say that when you buy these kits that you need to splice into the power cable of the car. It's not so much splicing as it is changing the connector. So let me show you. Where's the wires? Okay, it's in the other box. So let me show you what that looks like. So you, of course, you get 2 of the ballasts. Set these aside. Okay, here are the headlights. So this is what I'm talking about. So this guy right here plugs into the headlamp and then connects to the ballast at this point, right? And so this is what goes to the headlight. Now over here, that connects to the car, this plug goes in here, and then as you can see, they've got these male spade connectors. And so what you need to do is you need to go back to the car, and that wire that was originally connected to that original ballast has a plug-in connector. You need to cut that connector off, and you need to throw 2 of these female connectors in so that you connect these guys in there, and then you need to nicely wrap it up with electrical tape or shrink wrap tubing or whatnot. Here you can see I bought the waterproof one, so when I actually connect the cables on the car, I'll be able to heat that, and it'll close up where the wire connects to the connector. Okay. And then we have the bulb that's nicely protected, and you don't want to touch that, so make sure that when you start handling the bulb that you have some rubber gloves on, just so that you make sure that you don't accidentally get your body oils on the bulb. So now I'm going to install the wiring harness into the housing. So I've never done this before, but let's try this out. First you need to take this cover off. This is the cover for the low beams. So we've got high beams, low beams, turn signal, parking lights. Okay, so go ahead and take that off. Wearing gloves, take the bulb And before you start, there's a little metal clasp here. You're going to install the bulb first. Okay. There's the bulb. Okay, you can discard everything else. And it's important to note that that bar right there needs to be facing down. That's how the factory one is, and that's how, at least I've read, that it needs to be in the down position. So we'll go ahead and move that up. Insert it in. There's a few notches there to make sure that you don't install it improperly. And then put that metal clip back in place. There. Very simple, right? Then you need to get your wiring harness. And you need to route the wires. There we go. So we route the wires out that hole. And then we'll clip this into the place and then lock it in place. There we go. Okay, so it's locked in place. Wires hanging out. Take the cover. Close it up nice and tight. Okay, so now what we'll do is reinstall the high beams, reinstall the turn signal. As you know, I left the parking light bulb dangling from the car, so we're not going to install that one right now. Okay, so we'll take this, and these 4 screws just need to be loosened. You don't actually have to take them out, so just loosen them up a little bit. Okay, there we go, loosened. And you probably want to discard this stuff to make sure you don't accidentally put your headlight on top of it and end up scratching it. Okay, so here's the old one. So again, you need to loosen these guys, so we'll loosen that. Loosen that. Okay, and then you just need to turn it counterclockwise, pull straight out to make sure that you don't ruin the bulb. There we go. That's the high beam. And we'll put it in exactly the same way, being careful to just insert it all the way in. Press down nicely and then twist it, and I try to keep the same angle on the bracket from the original, and then just tighten these screws down. Don't over tighten. I have a tendency to over tighten. Just make sure it's just firm. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. Okay. Now we'll take the turn signal. It's an amber bulb. Okay, there it is. So the arrows, I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's little arrow marks that show clockwise. That's how you lock it in place. So what you want to do is you want to unlock it. So we'll turn it counterclockwise. There. And then lift it out. There you go, amber bulb. I'm actually going to probably replace that with one of the chrome amber bulbs. I'm not real excited about having this amber showing in the cleared headlights. Okay, and then lock it in place by turning it clockwise, I think. Is there a click that you hear? I don't hear a click. Okay, anyway. I thought there'd be a click. Guess not. Okay, leave it. Okay, I think that this headlight is pretty much ready. So now I've got two headlights ready to be installed. The only thing missing right now is the ballast and the little parking lamp. So this is the part where we splice into the factory harness. And I wouldn't even call it splicing into. I think it was a little misleading anyway when I heard that we had to splice into the system. What you really need to do is you just need to change the connector, the way it connects into the ballast. So here is the connector for the old ballast, and obviously we can't use it with the new ballast. So what we need to do is we need to change the connector. So you can see here, I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but there's a red wire and a black wire. Well, guess what? Here is the HID connector. Here's the connector, and that goes into the ballast. And then we have these two spade connectors attached to black and red wires. So what we need to do is we need to clip this connector off and then put these two female connectors on the black and red wires. Very simple. There you go. Now you've got two female connectors that you connect the male connectors to. So let's see here. Black goes with black, right? And then red goes with red. So that'll be very simple. I also got these nice weatherproof ones, so I'm going to put a little heat to the insulation and they'll shrink down on it. So the next thing you have to figure out is where you're going to install the ballast. So here's the ballast. It's not terribly big. It needs to be close enough to the headlight so that the length of the wire can get to the headlight. Some people, and this is probably going to take, well, this took me the longest because I really wasn't sure where to put it. Do I put it down here? Do I mount it on the bumper? And then anytime I got near the headlight, I had to make sure that the headlight was not in the way. So it was lengthy. It was a lengthy process just because I had to think about it. So here's where I decided to put it. I'm going to put it tucked inside of the fender well. It's nice and out of the way, and it also allows me to install and hang it so that these connectors are facing down, so that if any water comes here, it won't settle in on the connectors. If you decide to put it this way as an example, even though the connectors are reasonably, they have reasonable gaskets to prevent water from coming in, sitting water is your enemy, right? So I'm going to install it this way. It did require me to drill a hole, so if you don't like drilling holes, this probably isn't the greatest thing for you. But here's where I'm going to install it. I'm going to install it right in here like that. These wires are very accessible. And let me zoom in to show you the hole that I drilled. All I'm going to do is I'm going to put one screw, one bolt in the top, because the bottom one is hanging and isn't actually connected to the body. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the included double stick pad on this side so that it can adhere to the, as much as possible where it makes contact with the body, it can adhere to the body. But then I'm also going to throw a bolt on the top. And let me show you where I drilled. Okay, let's see here. Where am I? Oh, there it is. So that's the hole I drilled right there. It's just to the front of that bolt that you see over here. It's just to the front of this bolt here. I also put a little bit of touch-up paint there, and I'm also going to put some grease there before I install the ballast to prevent rust. I think it's going to be a nice install. So I just finished installing the driver's side ballast, and as you can see, it's tucked right in there. And not only do I have the bolt holding it at the top, but I think you can see I put a tie wrap there. There's a little hole, I don't know if you can see it, let's see. Yeah, there we go. There's a little hole up here that I got a twist, tie cable to, and I routed around the car. I had to use a couple of them joined together, but that should secure it. And you can see here, conveniently located, I have the headlight wires. So I think this is going to turn out well. Here are the headlights. I'm getting ready to mount them. As you can see, I decided not to leave the vent holes open from where the old ballast normally goes. Some have said that you should leave that open for venting and heat, and I don't know. I just know that the original setup had the hole covered, and so I can't believe that my car lasted over 10 years with substantial heat that caused problems. So I just decided that I would cover them up. I read on the forums that some people cover it up with duct tape, and that's exactly what I did. It's not airtight, it's not even watertight, but it makes it so that at least it's reasonably covered, and debris and some moisture, some water won't get in. Anyway, I figure if it's not airtight, I'm somewhere in between the suggestion that you leave it completely open and sealing it. So that's the decision I made. It's up to you whether you decide to, what you decide to do. Okay, I wired it all up, so now let's see if it works. Okay, so first the parking lights. Now the low beams. High beams. Oh, the high beams were already switched on. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to do the other side now. I put the whole thing back together again, and so you can see the headlights. What I did notice is that I can see the amber bulb for the turn signal, as well as the amber bulb for the parking light. I'll probably take those out later.